And welcome everybody to the HOU.SEC Cast, episode 27 of the HOU.SEC Cast, the HOU.SEC.CON podcast. I am joined as always and forever. He can never let me go, never leave me, Sam Van Ryder.
Oh, well, it's a pleasure to be here with you, Michael. So it's all good. I can still tolerate you well. So we're good.
You complete me, Sam. Well, hey, we have got, I always say this, but all of our guests are special. A special guest in Dd Budiharto, one of our speakers at the EXEC.SEC.CON conference / track at HOU.SEC.CON 2024. CISO extraordinaire. She's been in this industry for a long time, has seen a lot of stuff. And turns out she's seen some really crazy stuff. And we're going to be talking about that in this episode.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's good. You need to be here for this. So we're going to jump right into it. Let's go. Sam, we are back. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm good. We got one podcast between us and the end of HOU.SEC.CON 2024. So that gives us a lot of time to get some rest and relaxation before we start the whole thing over again.
So just keep rolling. It's all good.
Well, we have got a special guest with us today, one of our HOU.SEC.CON 2024 speakers, Dd Budiharto. How are you?
Doing well, Michael. Thank you. How are you and Sam?
We're good. So Dd, for everybody on here, if you don't know her, she's a founder and CEO of CyberPoint Advisory and one of the stalwarts and regular folks in the Houston cybersecurity community and everywhere, but everybody knows her in Houston. Absolutely. She's been around here forever, provides a ton of value for the cybersecurity community all over the place. Just really excited to have you on here, Dd.
Thank you. I'm honored.
You're welcome. Well, we obviously are going to have this whole segment where we're talking about you, but we always have to talk about other stuff first, and then we save the best part for last. So we're going to talk about HOU.SEC.CON in general, and then we'll talk about the news article that you gave us to talk about, which is some very fun, well, I don't want to say fun stuff, but important stuff that is directly connected to your talk that you did at HOU.SEC.CON as well. So, Sam, HOU.SEC.CON, like I said, we've just got done with 2024, but there's no rest. We're always moving forward. We've got the next user group coming up November 21st. That's with David Taxer. David's talk is going to be extremely, extremely connected and relevant to your stuff, Dd. So I would actually love if you would come out to that user group if you can do that on November 21st. You need to meet David. He's got a story very similar to what you're going to be talking about. That is going to be on November 21st. I don't know if you haven't met him or if he hasn't met you. I think y'all probably have a lot to discuss. And that will all make sense once you hear Dd's, what we talk about, that she talked about, and if you come out to the user group. So that's a little bit of a temptation for everybody to show up to the user group as well. Just a reminder, everybody that has been out there before to the user group, we have moved that to the Neutrality Data Center downtown. Sign up so you get all those details in your email, but we did move that. What's next, Sam?
Well, we've got HOU.SEC.CON coming up, so that's looking forward to the second version of that. So we did the first one here earlier this year, and now we're going for April 17th at the Norris Conference Center. And right now in the midst of signing up sponsors that are OT-centric. And of course, the premise of that conference is about bringing the cyber practitioners together with the owner-operators so that we can kind of get that discussion going and make everybody feel comfortable with both sides of that coin. And working more efficiently together. So looking forward to another one of those coming up, and it'll be 2 tracks. So we're expanding that, and we'll expand space for people. And we'll have a lot more of that information on the website updated by the end of the year.
Awesome. We've also got the next EXEC.SEC.CON. Hopefully we'll see Dd there. Maybe she'll be speaking this year or next year. That one's on April 22nd. So just a week after HOU.SEC.CON, April 22nd, we'll be at the Marriott Marquis, where we used to have HOU.SEC.CON before we got too big for our britches. Now we're at the George R. Brown. But yeah, we love the Marriott Marquis. It's a great location. That'll be on April 22nd. That one will be a little bit bigger and better as well. Again, websites will be updated before the end of the year. We'll have tickets and all of that stuff before the end of the year. More details coming. So be on the lookout for that. And then last announcement, Sam.
Well, yeah. So everything's up. All the recordings we had on HOU.SEC.CON this year have all been uploaded to our Vimeo and YouTube accounts. So go out there. You can go stream all the content. If you missed any of them, we have a lot. So usually you can't hit them all. But out of those 10 tracks, they're all basically the ones that were allowed to be recorded. They're all up there on the website and easy to access. And then we have the next one coming up, and we have the dates for that back at the George R. Brown. We will be at September 30th and October 1st of this next year, and expecting it to be, a little bit bigger. We grow every year, so it'll be fun. A lot more interesting things happening. Again, all that stuff, the tickets and, all these other things are going to, be more updated towards the end of this year on the website. So just keep an eye on the website as we do this, because we'll have the sponsorships. The kits are out there already if you're interested in sponsoring, but also we'll have call for papers, including on HOU.SEC.CON, and we'll have all that information coming up here towards the end of this year.
And I will say that we've already got several sponsors who have signed up, have already signed and are on the docket. So if you are interested in sponsoring, don't wait, because while we have more room, we filled up last year and actually had to make a little bit more room for some other folks and be a little creative. So get signed up for sponsorships ASAP. So that's it for that segment. I will say before we get into DD's stuff that DD's video was not recorded. We typically do not record in what we used to call the CISO track, now the EXEC.SEC.CON track. We don't record that by default, just because there could be some sensitive information in there. So DD's was not recorded. We are going to record those next year and then not record the ones that we're asked not to record. That will be next year. So unfortunately, DD's talk is not up there, but we're going to give you all the info on this talk. And production note, we're going to do something a little bit different than what we normally do. We're going to go ahead and take a break now because DD's talk has a lot to do with the main segment that she's going to be talking about. So I kind of wanted those to flow in. We'll do a little bit differently than we do. So on the other side of the break, we will talk about DD's article and her talk and DD herself. So see you on the other side of the break. Okay, welcome back, everybody, from the break. Like I said, we're going to do things a little bit differently this time than we normally do, because the news segment that DD gave us has so much to do with her talk. We're first going to get into talking about DD, and then we'll flow into that news segment and then do what her talk was about at HOU.SEC.CON. So DD, give us a quick background, however long you want to take, about kind of what got you into this field, and then talk about what you're doing these days with the advisory and all that good stuff.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Pretty much for people at my age, in the 50s, that is, we got into cybersecurity accidentally because there was no field of cybersecurity then, right? Without going into too much of the history, but when I came to this country, I didn't speak English, and I wanted to learn English. I didn't know what to major. This was in 1988, and so I chose accounting as a major because it was the first thing on the list. And fast forward, I was getting my master's at GW in DC, and then the big 8 accounting firm came to recruit, and I was working as a cost accountant at the GW hospital there. So they asked me, what do you want to do? In an accounting firm. I said, I don't know, but I don't like accounting and I like computers, but I don't know. I've never touched a computer other than typing and WordPress, whatever Word document. Then what is it called?
Word perfect.
Word perfect. Yeah, because we used to call it Word imperfect. And the partner said, "Well, we have exactly what you're looking for. It's called EDP auditing." EDP, electronic data processing, which is the precursor of IT, right? And it was, remember, this is mainframe. So I started learning about audit controls in that field. I didn't even know what audit controls meant in that context. And so I learned that on the job. And it just got into reviewing, at the end of the day, is we want to make sure that data input and data output is all that CIA triads, right? Confidentiality, integrity, and availability is intact. And morphed into becoming an information system auditor back then from EDP. I don't remember what the stages of the evolution was. And I finally left consulting. I went into private sector. Again, this is fast forward many, many times. But my first job at an oil and gas company was with Halliburton. So I was an information security analyst. This was even before it was called cybersecurity. And started out doing everything. This was before Patch Tuesday even existed. And I was that good old days. I know. I always tell people that I started my career in the 1900s before Patch Tuesday was born. uh, Fast forward, I got involved in oil and gas. I was elected to be the American Petroleum Institute IT Security Subcommittee. I was the first female to be elected that.
Wow.
And so since then, my job offers have been from multiple oil and gas companies. As a result, I worked for a total of 6 oil and gas companies. They kept recruiting me and moving from being an analyst to become a CISO. And the last 2 jobs, though, I did take a step down because of family reasons. My children were in high school, struggling, and with the pandemic and everything. So I took a position of number 2, being a security architect, which is another topic for a different time about career. It's okay to step back to move forward. And almost 2 years ago, I decided to go on my own because I got burnt out, honestly, having always been on, even though there's a call tree when something goes wrong, you need to call this and that. No, they always wanted to call you. And so I've been happy being on my own, doing fractional CISO. I want to focus on small to medium-sized businesses, but I do have big global oil and gas companies as my client as well. And that's where I am now.
Wow. Well, I 100% understand the one, don't want to be on all the time. That definitely does get old. So that when you've got flexibility to do something like that, where you're not having to constantly be on call, I call that the old, was it cyber hero or cyber firefighter? The person that they know you're going to get things done, even if you've got a call tree. They just like, I don't need. Dd gave me her number a while back. I'm just going to use that.
My
And I think
name
you
is
get to
so
a point
easy. Yeah.
and I think you get to a point in the life too where it's not the title, doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
What matters is family, and I had similar experience with my career, so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
totally understandable.
Yeah. It back in Accuvant days, way back when I was there pre-Optiv, it was, I had that
I remember.
position, or the availability of a position that was going to be about 80% travel. And I told the guy who offered me the position, I was like, there's no way I can do that. My kids they weren't even teenagers at the time. I was like, there's just absolutely no way. So yeah, you have to make those sacrifices, and just not everybody does. Some people do, some people don't. It is what it is. But
I want to pick on the word sacrifice. It was not a sacrifice, actually.
Well, that's a good point. That's a
Yeah.
very good
I
point.
was about to say the same thing. Thank you,
Thank you
Didi.
very
That's
much.
actually a privilege to be able to do that, right, in that
Yeah.
point. So I think our society, though, drives us very much towards career, career,
Yeah.
and we forget what's important. No one's going to write your title on your tombstone. So anyway.
Well, maybe I can get them to do that if I put it in
You
my
could.
will.
Oh, I've got all kinds of other good ideas for your tombstone. Just wait.
Wow.
Do
Lauren,
share.
I don't know if we want to keep that in or not. Wow.
The first of his name.
The first,
And
oh my
Love you,
gosh, your
bud.
that LinkedIn post was fantastic. If y'all haven't seen that, Dee Dee's LinkedIn post about Spaff's keynote was all Game of Thrones related, and it was absolutely hilarious. I felt like I was reading the novels again for the first time. It was so cool. It was very well done. So we need to link to that one too, Lauren. Let's link to, we can find Dee Dee's post to Gene's or to Spaff's keynote. That was great. Well, thanks for that rundown, Dee Dee. I really do appreciate it. Appreciate what you do for the community. I know you've mentored a lot of people and got people into and helping them get into different roles and sponsoring them and things like that. So I appreciate what you do there. And you're absolutely right. I appreciate the correction. It's not a sacrifice. It is a privilege, but we do look at it the wrong way sometimes. So thank you for that. All right. Well, now we are going to get into the news segment and flow that right into what your talk was about. So the news segment that you sent us is not exactly new news, like modern news, but the topic itself is still a big problem. So this one was specifically about Aerojet Rocketdyne agrees to pay a $9 million or not pay $9 million to resolve False Claims Act allegations of cybersecurity violations in federal government contracts. So this specifically is what we would call the Whistleblower Act, where people, if they find something that's going on in their environment and they're kind of told not to say things, or they're not, they know they're going to get in trouble if they do it. There are all these things that can cause people to back away from doing the right thing. This one was specifically out like I said, at Aerojet Rocketdyne, where they paid out to resolve this violation. So Dee Dee, if you would talk about this article, why you suggested it, and why, like I said, we can take that and get into why this is important to you and what it had to do with your talk.
yeah, because this is a CISO whistleblower versus the other, like what we've seen before on that submersible, about operational functional things, safety. But this is actually a CISO that did the whistleblowing. And if I'm not mistaken, the CISO was hired after they experienced a data breach. So he was asked to recertify the compliance. And after all the assessment and everything towards the end, he said this was still not compliant to his standards, and he didn't want to sign it. So he reported it up, and he was fired for not wanting to certifying the assessment. And I think, without digging through the news, you don't hear much about that. You hear the big ones like Joe Sullivan with the former Uber, whom I also met in person, talked in depth with that. But yeah, for the other ones, they're still going around, but we don't talk much about it. That's why I presented it at HOU.SEC.CON, to raise the awareness that this is happening even at our level in real life, not just for big companies. And
Yeah,
this was unfortunate too, because cybersecurity is all about trust. This is all about trust, and integrity is the cornerstone of trust. So, having the integrity to blow the whistle on something like this is a big deal in a good way, right? And I think too, like you mentioned, these things of, hey, and there's often a connotation that it's a threat of getting fired, it's a threat of something bad happening for not acting. But at the same time, in many cases, I'll argue it's a case of having surrounding people that are actually promoting in a positive way that this is okay, it's not that bad, type of thing. And so it doesn't make you comfortable whistleblowing because it looks like actually everything's fine, right? And so it's actually a little bit of a mind game too. So ethics is hard when it comes to this kind of thing, right? In many cases for folks.
Yeah, I think the young kids call that gaslighting, right? Where you're being
It's
told everything's cool. But this is probably, I guess Kyle Lai was probably in your talk as well, Dd, because I know the CMMC stuff the new stuff just came out, and this is probably directly going up against certifying. You have to be CMMC certified at a certain level to even do business with the federal government. And they're coming back and saying, "Oh yeah, everything's fine now. Don't look over here. We need to do more business." And it's like, yeah, you're not quite there. But I think an important part of this too is, I mean, it sounds weird in a certain way, but because of the Whistleblower Act. If people don't know this, this guy, Mr. What's his name, Brian Marcus, is going to receive $2.61 million of the $9 million fine. So that's part of I hate to say incentive, because you don't want everybody going out there trying to whistleblow and stuff. But if it doesn't come up to the level of actually whistleblowing, I'm assuming you're not going to get anything out of the suit. But I mean, he's literally getting paid money for this.
There's no guarantee though. There's
no
no
guarantee
of the outcome, right? So,
yeah.
I mean, the incentive really isn't there. It's still a risk. You have no idea if once things are done, that they actually come clean and say it's all good. There hasn't been anything. There are no fines, whatever, or there is a fine.
And
right?
you're still taking a big risk of getting your whole career messed up. Absolutely.
right. You have to be mentally ready for this too, because this is an emotional journey. Another article that I also used in my presentation, the guy who was reporting about the submersible one that exploded that killed 5 people, he started the report to OSHA, but then it took a toll in his family and his emotional, so he withdrew that. So being a whistleblower is not easy for you and for the family. So that's why it's not just about the money, right? Just think about, like you say, there's no guarantee, and they're gonna investigate you to make sure that you're saying the right thing. So
Well, and that's the fact that the resources of a large corporation, even when like Aerojet Rocketdyne is not the biggest one out there, but they still have a whole lot of more resources than the average person does. So they're going to I'm not coming on here saying every corporation's evil, but if they're trying to not get in trouble by something like this, or trying, they have their own pressures, they're going to come after you. And to your point, Dd, the government itself is investigating you to make sure you're not just doing something just to get paid. So no, it's not easy. And you go through all of that and you wonder, man, was all of that worth 2.61 million? I don't know. It's hard. It's really hard. Well, so great. It's again, great article. It's a good article. The situation is not great. So tell us what this has to do with why you had this talk. As we understand it, this is something personal that happened to you as well. So can you get into that if you're okay with that?
yeah. And that's one of the things that I am, as a free agent now, independent business owner, I'm able to share a lot of what's behind the scenes without really naming and putting someone on a pedestal or anything like that, on the spotlight. But it did happen to me, and that time I didn't even know I was being a whistleblower until everything that had happened. And then looking back, I said, okay. So forensically, I put together the scenarios. So I was hired by one of the oil and gas companies, and it's a greenfield. So I was very excited, and I did not have any team. And so I put my strategy, my roadmap, and everything else. And I say, hey, for us to get to this 3-year roadmap, I would need team members for this, and that, right? You can give me a contractors to start with, a consultant, but I need help to do this. I can't do it alone. And the response, oh, yeah, we've got consultants for you and everything. So I was provided a team of consultants. I mean, big numbers and big companies, actually. And I started noticing they did not deliver what I asked. So when I had to put together my reporting, it was always like, I don't have that delivered. And then the consultants started asking me to approve to roll out some of the solutions, and I said, no, this is not in the roadmap. We haven't done the requirements yet, and I don't want to just approve rolling out solutions for this and that, because this is, remember, this is greenfield. We needed everything from the ground up. The infrastructure was already established in the cloud and everything, so that was good, but the security tools itself have not been established. And then I started being asked by my manager to review and approve the invoices every week, large amount. And I said, well, I'm not approving this because they haven't delivered what I've asked, right? This is on the roadmap, on the strategy. And they said, oh, no. The manager said, don't worry about it. We'll take care of that. They'll deliver what they ask you, what you ask them. I said, okay, but I'm still not going to sign these invoices until I know what the contract says. So I said, I know you're busy. Why don't I just review the contracts? And if you can share with me the contracts. Oh, no. You don't need to read the contracts. Just everything's going to be fine. And I still refuse to sign and approve the invoices. And I couldn't get the contract from my manager or from anywhere else. So one of those days I had a meeting with the general counsel just for us to review another part, like privacy matters and investigation, just at the procedural level and policy level. I just happened to ask, I say, hey, do you happen to have a contract for this consultants who provided services for the security? And they said, well, you should ask your manager. I said, yeah, but I think my manager's busy. They couldn't find it. And he said, why are you concerned about this? Why are you asking about it? I said, well, because they haven't delivered what I asked, and the invoices are big, and I don't want to sign and approve them. I said, okay, well, let me see what I can do. I know I already said he. So he started he started probing, perhaps, which then I got called to my manager's office. I got yelled at, literally yelled at. Like, I had no business to be telling people about, especially general counsel, about me looking for contracts. That was not my job. That I should have asked the manager, and I did. And they said, I said, you told me that I didn't have to worry about it, and I don't want to approve the invoices. And fast forward kind of a couple weeks later, I was traveling to the location, a different state, where my manager and I shared an office when we're there. And they were not there, and I happened to be in the office, and I saw a printout of a memo to HR about me being insubordinate and not the right fit, just all kinds of lies. It was just funny. It was a printout on the shared desk that we had. So I got scared and panicked, and I was out of town, out of state. I've always had a executive coach, so I called my coach, and so we went through the scenarios. So he was able to help me calm down the possible scenarios that was going to happen to me. So at least that was the only person, he was the only person that I could talk to. I really didn't want to tell anyone else because I didn't know whom to trust anymore after seeing that letter, that memo. And so sure enough, when I came back to Houston the following week, I got called by HR, by my manager. I was fired on the spot. And which was, at that time, of course, it was painful. My ego hurt and everything. And life was not fair. But the truth was I had been offered a couple jobs before I took this one. And so that company kept calling me, say, "Hey, is your honeymoon over yet? When are you going to come to me?" So it just, the timing was perfect. As soon as I got fired, I called them. I said, "Okay, when do you want to have me?" "Or anytime. We're ready for you."
My honeymoon is absolutely over. Oh my God.
It's hard to come back from a honeymoon and get divorced right away, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't know where the honey was. But the moon.
but it's hard to work for a company. I mean, for me, that just it, I can't imagine being able to retain good ethical talent, right, with a culture like that.
Doesn't
And
sound like they were interested in the ethical talent.
yeah, obviously not, right?
No, right? And that's the thing. So the lessons learned for me is a couple things. So we did try to go to a lawyer to see what kind of legal steps that I could do. And we consulted, my husband is actually a lawyer, so we consulted with a lawyer. And it took, all the information that I would have to gather, and the time and everything else, and then the lawyer said, just be prepared. The outcome may not be what you want, right, unless you have all this different evidence. And so I didn't really have an evidence then. And so, and then, I was starting a new job anyway. I said, okay, let me just let it go. Maybe this is a lessons learned. um, but what happened next, which was what I did not expect at all, I think a couple months later, the manager was fired. They finally did the investigation, and the company had a litigation against the consulting firm.
There you go.
So me being fired was a blessing in disguise. I could
Yeah.
not have been just, having been removed from that picture. Imagine I would have been in that mess.
Yep. Well, I mean,
Wow.
imagine you not, I mean, I know you wouldn't have done it, but imagine if you had signed off. I mean, you'd be embroiled in all of that mess. You'd be in trouble just as much. So,
Yeah.
or to some level, maybe not just as much. I mean, you could have feigned ignorance or whatever, but that's just goes to show
Yeah.
being ethical is, it paid off.
Well, and also ethical and instinct, right? When you're seasoned, that's another thing that when we talk about the younger generations being leader, and I'm all for that. But there's something to be said about having gone through the experience in life. You have that instinct. The instinct told me, and I listened to my instinct, that this was not the right thing to do. That combined with my, ethical, moral compass and everything else, I said, okay, I'm not going to sign this. Without really thinking, I didn't even think about, am I going to be fired? I just was so adamant not wanting to sign.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, good for you for standing up and doing the right thing. I can't, we need more people like you. So that's awesome. Sorry you had to go through it though, right? So, but yeah, at
Well, I
least
think it
others
was
can learn from your experience.
It was meant to be so I can share that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because I shared that a little bit in when I received the Orby Awards, because one of the question was, okay, what's your most proud accomplishments in your career? And my answer was being fired for keeping my integrity. And then afterwards, people came to me saying, wow, I'm in that situation right now. And, that's what I'm saying. I think it was meant that's why I don't mind speaking up, because I think I was placed in that situation so I can share and raise the awareness. So people don't have to go through it alone, and they have avenues. And yeah, you only have one integrity. You can always find another job.
Well, that whole situation lines up with what we've been dealing with in general in this, a lot of the news that's been coming out this year with some of the vendors and belonging to certain VC funds, and some people getting kickbacks to buy off on those products and to put them in their environments and not do their due diligence to investigate whether those products actually fit well and filled the gaps that they needed filled in their environments. There's just a lot of that, unfortunately, that goes around, and people don't have those ethical standards, and they'll do whatever they have to do to make a buck. It's just unfortunate that people are like that. So I'm glad you did it. I 100% second what Sam said there. We appreciate your ethical standards, and we appreciate you sharing it, because it does provide a lot of lessons for a lot of the people who haven't been in this industry. Because you made the comment earlier about us, those of us in our 50s that have been doing this for a long time. I mean, we did come up in environments where that instinct sometimes has been honed a little bit, where you're like, wait a minute, something just doesn't pass the sniff test here. Whereas some other people just may not think about that. I mean, oh, well, this is just how business is done. I'll just go ahead and sign off on this. Not necessarily of a fault of their own. Maybe that's just how you're supposed to do it. So I'm really glad you've helped people see that.
Yeah, and I think you and I, Michael, especially, right? We sit on that vendor side of the coin too, and that look, I have plenty of these stories. I have plenty of these stories where I've competed for business and found out at the back end that there have been some things going on that we were just not going to match, and and not just here, but other companies I've worked with, and with over 2,000 cybersecurity companies out there. Everyone's looking for attention, and that frenzy, it's like a piranha feeding frenzy, right? It's like at some point all ethics go out the window, and you do stupid things at RSA, like put women in head shades or lampshades or whatever, and other dumb things like that. But it also hits on the ethics, right? And it's definitely an issue. It's one thing to have somebody on an advisory board because they're adding value to the direction and strategy of your company. It's something entirely different because you want them to influence and bring context so you can sell more product, right? And it's a problem, and it exists.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Dd, thank you so much for your time, and again for presenting at HOU.SEC.CON. This has been great. I hope a lot of people listen to this and get to see this and get to see your presentation. Hopefully you'll do that again somewhere, maybe at EXEC.SEC.CON next year.
It was proposed as a panel for RSA next year. So I'll find out whether or not that will get accepted. Yeah.
That's fantastic. That'd be a great panel.
But I want to tie it back to Spaf's keynote, though, because one of the points that he mentioned, remember he mentioned the 4 thing, is that innovation forces to go to market fast, and then bypassing all this necessary controls, ethics, and everything else. So yeah, it is truly, we can't forget that technology does not drive everything. Innovation doesn't drive everything. We have to balance it with that human aspects.
Agreed.
Yeah.
All right. Dd, thank you again for being on. I really appreciate it. That was a good parting thought, and I think Sam's feed just went away, so I may have to close this podcast out myself, which is fine. I'm okay with that. I think Sam's video was our internet was already having problems because his video was kind of up and down. So that's all right. I'll close it out myself. Well, Dd, thank you so much again for being on. Really appreciate it, and hope to see you soon. And
thanks, Michael. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. Really appreciate it. Episode 27, and we will see you on the next one hopefully with Sam on the next one at the end. All right, everybody. Thank you very much.